Hi there, I'm Maris. And my family gave everything to my sister. The golden child, the chosen one. I didn't even get a phone call when the will was read. 7 years later, they showed up at my doorstep, smiling, like nothing happened. Now they want a relationship with my kids. But after everything they took from me, how could they think I'd just let them back in? The dryer hummed in the background while I folded another shirt. The twins' laughter echoed faintly from upstairs. Everything smelled like clean cotton and cinnamon-scented floor cleaner. Peaceful, controlled, predictable. Then the knock came. 3 taps. Crisp, measured. Not frantic, not hesitant. Rehearsed. I froze. My hand still held one of Micah's shirts, the sleeves dangling like limp arms. The knock repeated. Same rhythm. I didn't need to peek through the window. I already knew. 7 years of silence was never silence. It was a loaded pause. And this was the sound of it ending. I opened the door. There they were. My mother wore pearl earrings, her lips pressed into the same smile she used at church fundraisers. My father stood half a step behind her, tall, stiff, unreadable. They looked as if they were there to drop off a casserole, not crash into a life they'd long abandoned. "Honey," she started, eyes flicking past me, searching. I said nothing. "We were just in the neighborhood," she continued, "and we thought, well, we heard you had twins." "From who?" My voice came out calm, but I could feel the hammering behind it. My father cleared his throat. "Your sister told us." "Of course she did." My mother tilted her head. "We'd love to meet them. We don't want to miss out on family." I stared at them, my own silence stretching like smoke between us. They weren't here because they missed me. They weren't here because of regret. They were here because Jessa had made a choice, and they had no backup plan. "She's not having kids," my father finally admitted, voice low, almost embarrassed. And there it was, the truth, naked and cheap. "No," I said simply. "You don't get to walk back in now." I started to close the door. "Maris, wait, don't be like this." My mother rushed in, her tone all warmth and guilt-wrapped manipulation. "We're still your parents." "You stopped being that the day you decided Jessa deserved everything," I replied, my voice sharper now. "This house, these kids, this life, you're not entitled to any of it." I shut the door, not with a slam, but with deliberate force. Enough to be final. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was electric, crackling through the air long after they were gone. I leaned against the wall, eyes closed. My breathing was steady, but my hands shook. 7 years ago, when my grandparents passed, I'd clung to hope like a fool. I thought, maybe this time they'll be fair. Maybe they'll see me. For once. I remember the will reading like it was burned into my skin. Jessa in black Chanel, her phone lighting up every few minutes. Me in a wrinkled dress I bought on clearance. Waiting, hoping, watching their faces when the lawyer read the terms. "All assets transferred to Jessa Ray Collins," he said. I blinked, waiting for the rest. There was no rest. "She's more equipped for legacy," my mother had told me later. "You wouldn't know what to do with it." I never cried. I never yelled. I just walked away. Until now. I grabbed a pen and a yellow legal pad from the kitchen drawer. Not a list of people to block. Not a revenge plan. A list of boundaries. Who doesn't get access to my front door? Who doesn't see my children? Who doesn't get to call themselves family just because they're running out of options? The line between them and me wasn't blurry anymore. It was drawn in ink, permanent. The door creaked behind me. Wes stepped in, holding his empty coffee mug. He saw my face, my posture. He didn't ask anything right away. Then softly, "You okay?" I nodded once. "They're back," I said. He tensed. "What did they want?" I turned toward the window where their car had been, now gone. "They want in," I said. He didn't speak. I added, "But they'll have to burn the whole house down before I open that door again." "I knew it," I said to Wes before he could even sit down. He stood in the kitchen, still holding his thermos from work, eyebrows raised. "Knew what?" "They didn't come by for me. They came for the kids. They're not done." He exhaled, set the thermos on the counter, and rubbed his face. "You really think they'd try again?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He knew me well enough to feel the shift already happening in me. That night, while he put the twins to bed, I pulled out my old laptop, the one I used back when I still believed in second chances and legal equality, and began searching for attorneys, custody laws, emergency orders, restraining clauses, anything that started with parental rights and ended with termination. I wasn't scared anymore. I was sharpening. 2 mornings later, the mail arrived in a plain white envelope. I recognized the county seal before I tore it open. Inside, a court notification. Petition for temporary guardianship, filed by my own parents. They cited documented postpartum instability as their concern. I sat very still. The paper trembled only when I breathed. I'd trusted that file was sealed. A single therapy session, 7 years ago. I was exhausted, hormonal, terrified of failing as a mother. I said things I needed to say out loud so I wouldn't drown in them. And now, they'd weaponized it, framed it as proof of my incapacity. When Wes got home, I handed him the letter. They want custody, I said. Emergency guardianship. He blinked. You're kidding. No, they're calling me unstable. His mouth tightened. We're getting a lawyer. That same night, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I didn't answer, but I listened. My mother's voice, sweet like varnish overwrought. Hi, sweetheart. We've been thinking, this shouldn't be so difficult. We just want what's best for the children. I mean, if Jessa isn't having kids, someone has to carry on the family name. Then a pause, a shift, a low grumble. My father. If she won't give us grandkids, he said, we'll take hers. Click. I replayed it 3 times, sent it to the lawyer. No more ambiguity. This wasn't miscommunication. It was a move. A play. And they were coming for me. The next morning, I deleted every trace of the twins from my social media. Every photo, every birthday caption, every moment I once believed was safe behind a privacy setting. I changed their school pickup permissions. Jenna would handle it from now on. I started logging every phone call, every message, every hint of intrusion. I printed documents, labeled folders. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. Between packing Micah's lunch and reviewing custody precedents, I felt oddly composed, like a general surrounded by maps. They wanted war. So I would fight, but on paper, with law, and with precision they'd never see coming. At 7:42 p.m., I received an email from my boss. Subject, quick chat tomorrow? The body of the email was short, too short. Maris, we need to talk about something that came across my desk. Let me know when you're available. I stared at the screen, unmoving. They hadn't just come for my kids. They'd come for my credibility. I woke before the alarm. Again. The silence of the house wasn't peace. It was pressure. Everything felt staged. The way I laid out the twins' clothes the night before, the grocery list on the fridge in neat bullet points, even Wes pouring coffee across the kitchen, felt like a performance we were both too tired to critique. Micah's laugh carried faintly down the hallway, bright and unbothered. It almost made me smile, until my phone buzzed. And buzzed again. Work. I didn't want to answer, but something in my gut whispered, this isn't about a meeting. Hi, Maris. We need to speak briefly, my supervisor's voice said, clipped and careful. There's a matter that came through IIT we're required to address. IT. I pressed the phone closer to my ear. Your work account was accessed. Externally, one of your case files was altered and forwarded to the board. My chest tightened. Altered how? The language, it implies emotional instability, not on your client's part, on yours. I felt myself fall away from the chair without moving an inch. We've placed you on temporary administrative leave while we verify the integrity of your documentation. Click. Everything in me cracked, but not cleanly. It was a splintering under pressure, quiet and deep. My career wasn't just a job. It was the proof. The proof that I'd survived, grown, healed, that I could help others do the same. And now? I was unstable on record. By noon, I'd already sent copies of every patient note, every audio transcript I still had access to. The damage was done, but I wouldn't bleed for them anymore. Later that afternoon, my phone rang again. Unknown caller ID. I didn't answer, but the voicemail transcribed automatically. Hi, this is Principal Lawson at Ridgeway Elementary, just calling to follow up on a call we received from someone claiming to be Micah and Lena's grandfather. My body turned to ice. He requested early pickup, gave your address, their classroom numbers, even claimed you were in surgery. Something felt off, so we declined. Thought you should know. I didn't realize I was gripping the countertop until my fingers began to ache. No court ruling, no signed paper, just an unmonitored phone line and a convincing voice. That's all it took to nearly remove my children from school. That night, Wes found me hunched over the kitchen table, laptop open, files everywhere. He didn't say anything at first, just stood in the doorway watching. "You're spiraling," he said gently. "No," I replied. "This isn't panic. This is preparation." I was building a digital wall. Every call, every email, every violation, categorized, time-stamped, backed up twice. I wasn't fighting feelings anymore. I was constructing facts. "Let's go to bed," he whispered. "I can't. I need to finish this." "You need sleep." "No," I said again. "They're trying to make me look broken. I won't help them." He didn't push, just stood behind me, his hand briefly on my shoulder before walking away. Around midnight, I stepped out to the porch for air. It was cold, quiet, the kind of quiet that felt intentional. A white envelope lay on the doormat, no return address. Inside was a photograph. Me, at the park, holding Lena's hand while Micah dangled from the monkey bars. Taken 2 days ago. Not from a phone, from a distance. Long lens, professional. No note. They weren't just watching, they were waiting. I didn't sleep the night before. I just lay there, eyes open, body still, waiting for the ceiling to speak. It didn't. But something else did. Instinct. Loud and loud and louder, screaming, "They've already done something. I just hadn't found it yet." At 6:17 a.m., I rechecked the school pickup list for the 4th time that week. Jenna's name was highlighted. Her ID had been scanned. But still, I printed another copy, dropped it in my purse, reviewed the school's visitor policy. Again, the world hadn't changed, but I had. I moved differently now, watched people harder, expected the worst and still flinched when it came. It came with an email. My attorney's subject line was short. No punctuation. Just, "See attached. You'll want to sit down." I did. The file contained photos. Not blurry, not distant. Sharp, professional, of me, with my kids, at the park, at the supermarket, on the sidewalk outside the school. One, taken from inside the auditorium, showed me clapping beside Micah at family night. Each image was labeled with clinical detachment. Mother walks 10 feet ahead of children. Lack of visible eye contact. Documented pattern of isolation from extended family. A private investigator. Weeks, maybe months of tracking. Gathering snapshots to paint a portrait they wanted the court to see. A mother detached. Dangerous by omission. Cold through candid photography. But they didn't capture the bedtime stories, or the tear wiping, or the little dance I do to make Lena laugh when she's nervous before a spelling test. They didn't care about the truth, just the optics. The bile in my throat climbed higher with each image. When I reached the last one, I had to sit down. I'd been caught mid-yawn, covering my mouth, while Micah reached for my hand. The caption, "Neglectful distraction, potential fatigue risk." I dropped the tablet on the counter. My pulse was too loud. My hands shook. And then the doorbell rang. Jessa. Of course. She was holding her phone up, recording herself in selfie mode, grinning like a shark in lipstick. "Hey guys, I'm here. Big moment today. Let's see if healing is possible." Her voice was sugar over something rotten. She looked like she was trying to save a broken puppy, but she was aiming to maul. I opened the door, didn't invite her in. She didn't need the invitation. She stepped forward, filming as if she were documenting some sacred reckoning. "Let's talk, Maris. The world wants to see sisters reconnect. You've hurt me, but I'm willing to forgive. On camera." "Turn it off," I said. She ignored me. "I think people want honesty and closure. This could be healing for both of us." I slapped the phone from her hand. Not hard enough to break it. Just enough to make her face drop the act. She blinked, then her eyes narrowed. "This is why you're alone, you know. People don't like angry women." I said nothing. I didn't need to. I closed the door. That night, the video hit the internet. My voice, unblurred, agitated, direct, cut through a blurred image of my face. Jessa had titled it, "When Family Wounds Run Deep, but Love Fights Louder." The comment section flooded with armchair therapists, false prophets, and smiling vultures. She just needs help. Why is the sister so aggressive? If someone offered me reconciliation, I wouldn't slam the door. Wes stood behind me in the kitchen, watching the view count rise. We can take it down, he said. We can sue. No, I whispered. Why not? Because she's setting fires, hoping I burn everything down. I won't give her the match. But this is public now. I know, I said. So let it be public. He studied me like he was trying to find the fracture, the break, the wound that had finally made me snap. But there wasn't one. Not this time. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. A social media notification. Jessa had been tagged in a promotional poster for a podcast titled The Family Healing Series, Bridging Estrangement Through Forgiveness. My name wasn't on the flyer, but it didn't need to be. If she's going public, I whispered to no one. I opened my laptop, clicked new document. Maybe it was time I did too. The sound of my own voice played on a loop, distorted slightly, edited to be harsher, louder, cut just right to make me the villain. My face was blurred in the video Jessa posted, but my words weren't. Get off my porch. Turn it off. And a moment of clipped silence before the door slammed shut. Jessa's caption? Some sisters choose hate. I choose healing. It had been online for 48 hours, 500,000 views, and counting. Wes hovered in the hallway behind me as I watched strangers dissect me in the comments section. She's bitter. She's hiding something. God, imagine having a sister like that. I can't believe she's a mother. I scrolled. I didn't blink. I just archived every comment, captured every share, saved every twist of the knife. Wes crossed his arms. We need to file something. Legal. Now. Not yet, I said. Why the hell not? Because they haven't made their biggest mistake yet, and when they do, I'll make sure it counts. I opened a folder labeled Evidence and began dropping screenshots into it, one after another. Jessa was building sympathy. I was building a case. Later that evening, I checked my inbox. The subject line read, Podcast appearance confirmed. Parenting perspectives. Jessa was scheduled for an interview. She'd already recorded it. I clicked play. I think when families fall apart, there's always someone left trying to keep the pieces together, she said, her voice syrupy with practiced ache. I never wanted to be the only child who showed up, but sometimes people carry too much bitterness to see the truth. The host asked her if she thought reconciliation was possible. Absolutely, but only if people are willing to look at their own damage. I paused the audio. That night, I drafted a cease and desist letter. Tight, professional, legally sound. But I didn't send it, not yet. She wanted attention, I wanted resolution. She had a microphone, I had the law. The next morning, I received a knock. Not the door, my phone. Legal documents. Petition for grandparent visitation rights. Filed by Corinne and Douglas Calderon. I stared at the language. Emotionally unstable. Alienating the children. Unfit to preserve healthy family dynamics. They attached screenshots from Jessa's videos. Photos from the investigator. One line read, The petitioner seeks supervised visits only until the environment is deemed safe. Safe. They were calling me unsafe. I called my lawyer. We go to court. Now. No more waiting. That night, Wes poured me a glass of wine, and I didn't touch it. He watched me pace the living room. Papers in hand, folders on the couch, documents scattered across the coffee table like a declaration of war. You've done everything right, he said. I know. You've tried to avoid this. I did. Do you want to win this or end it? I stopped pacing, looked him in the eye. Both. He didn't speak again, just nodded. The next day, I sat in a legal office with Jenna beside me. My attorney asked, Are you sure you want to include Jenna as a witness? She's seen it all, I said. She's helped raise the twins. She's documented everything. She's not my friend anymore. She's family. We gathered screenshots, videos, time-stamped emails, letters, school reports, everything they thought they could twist. I twisted it back into truth. I left the office exhausted but unshaken. Until I got home. There was another envelope on the doorstep. No stamp, no handwriting, just a printed flyer inside. It was for the podcast, a second appearance. This one titled, when estranged daughters turn dangerous. I stood on the porch, staring at the flyer, letting it settle like ash in my throat. I had warned them, silently, carefully. But now I'd show them. The courthouse didn't echo with noise. It echoed with breath. Thick, invisible, tense. Everyone spoke in whispers or not at all. Wes sat beside me, his hand on my knee, steady but silent. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. I was holding myself together by will alone, and even the warmth of his palm felt like a risk. My hands were steady. My heart wasn't. Across the lobby, Corinne pretended not to see me. Douglas read a brochure like it mattered. Jessa was nowhere. Cowardly of her, but consistent. I heard my therapist's voice in my head. From years ago, when I'd first brought Micah and Lena home and couldn't sleep, couldn't stop crying. Your silence isn't peace. It's unspoken survival. I understood it now more than ever. We were called in. Courtrooms aren't made for real truth. They're made for who can frame the facts better. And my family, my former family, had come armed. The opposing counsel stood. Your Honor, we'd like to introduce a piece of audio for context. It speaks to the petitioner's concern for the grandchildren's emotional environment. I knew it before it played. My voice, 7 years younger, frayed. Sometimes I just want to disappear, just not be here anymore. Silence. Cut. Cropped. No mention of the context. Sleep deprivation, hormonal imbalance, crippling guilt for not loving motherhood the way the books said I would. Just that line. My attorney objected. Overruled. I felt Wes tighten beside me. I didn't flinch. But inside I wanted to throw every table over and scream, "You made me that broken, and now you're punishing me for surviving it." The hearing moved on, but I didn't hear much after that. That night at home, Micah sat beside me on the couch, feet swinging off the edge. I was still in my dress from court. I hadn't changed. Couldn't. "Mom?" he asked. I looked at him. He was clutching a crumpled piece of paper from school. "Why don't we have grandparents like everyone else?" His voice wasn't accusing. It wasn't even curious. Just small. I swallowed hard. "Because, baby," I said slowly, "some people only love when it benefits them. That's not love, that's control." He nodded. He didn't understand, not fully, but I think he felt the weight of it. I kissed his forehead and told him to brush his teeth. Then I walked into my office, closed the door, and rewrote my will. No ambiguity, no loopholes. If something ever happened to me, my children would go to Jenna. Full custody. My parents, my sister, no contact, no visitation, nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I sent the document to my attorney before midnight. At our follow-up meeting, I told her I wanted psychological evaluations filed for everyone involved, including myself. She blinked. "Are you sure?" "They used my pain like ammunition," I said. "Now I use it as armor." Wes drove me home in silence. When we pulled into the driveway, I checked my phone. One new voicemail, blocked number. I played it. My mother's voice, hollow, cold. "You will lose." That was it. I deleted it. Then I walked into the house, turned on the camera on my laptop, and stared at the lens. "You want a narrative?" I whispered. "I'll give you the truth, unedited." Lena's backpack was heavier than usual. I didn't notice until I reached in to grab her snack container and felt something crumpled beneath the folders. I pulled it out. A drawing. Childish lines, but painfully detailed. A woman in a red coat, glasses perched on her nose, holding a wrapped piece of candy out to a little girl. There were 3 stick figures, Lena, the woman, and Micah off to the side. I didn't need to ask who the woman was. Lena watched me from the hallway, fidgeting. "She said she missed me," she whispered. "When did this happen?" "At school. Family day." The hallway walls seemed to close in. I'd been there, in the same building, and yet they'd slipped her in. Corinne, in her Sunday best, smiling for the staff, lying with practiced ease. She always knew how to speak just enough to not raise alarms. Not right away. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. But I did drive straight to the school, hand clenched around the drawing. The principal looked startled when I laid it on her desk. "This," I said, "is a violation of every agreement we have." She stammered through apologies, promises to review guest procedures. But I didn't hear most of it. They found a crack, I said, and I'm going to seal the whole damn wall. That night, a letter arrived, handwritten, cream stationery with my mother's monogram in the top corner. I didn't want to open it, but I did. You were so warm as a child. What happened to you? The words clawed into me, but I kept reading. We're only trying to stay connected before it's too late. You'll regret this coldness someday. We still love you, even if you've made it so hard to show it. It wasn't love. It was guilt with perfume on it. I held the letter over the sink and lit a match. They always confused access with affection. I wouldn't let them rewrite that equation anymore. I was still standing by the window when my phone buzzed. A text from HR. Urgent meeting scheduled for 8 a.m. The next morning, I sat in the conference room across from 2 managers and 1 legal representative. No one looked me in the eye. An anonymous complaint was submitted, one of them finally said, alleging emotional misconduct with a minor client. My stomach dropped. There's no record of wrongdoing, the legal rep said, but the board has to conduct a formal review. The timing was no coincidence, not with a custody hearing approaching, not with everything else unraveling. This isn't about the child, I said. This is about character assassination. It's a coordinated attack. They didn't respond. Wes was waiting in the car when I came out. You want to scream? He said. So scream. I'm not screaming, I replied. I'm documenting. That night, I sat down at my desk, looked into my webcam, and pressed record. Not tears, not rage, just clarity. My name is Maris Calderon, I began, and I'm tired of letting other people tell my story. I laid it all out. Dates, names, legal papers, audio. No venom, just light. Wes uploaded it to a secure platform, scheduled for release only if things escalated further. If they try to break me in daylight, I told him, I'll shine brighter. At 10:47 p.m., I checked Jessa's latest video. 1 new comment, anonymous, no profile photo. She's about to lose more than custody. There was no name, but I didn't need one. They thought I was cornered. I'd just cleared the board. Wes found it by accident. He was reorganizing our cloud folders, cleaning out old documents from the year we moved to Denver. He clicked open a shared archive he didn't recognize and stared at the top file, a thread of emails between Jessa and Corinne. He walked into the kitchen, the printout trembling slightly in his hand. You need to read this, he said. I didn't want to, but I did. One sentence stopped me cold. If they don't rewrite the will, I'll go public about Aspen. My mouth went dry. Aspen. I'd heard the name whispered behind closed doors as a kid. A weekend conference my mother had attended while Dad stayed home. She came back quieter, guarded. Rumors swirled. An affair, a public figure, a threat to her spotless image on the school board. But nothing was ever said out loud. Until now. Wes laid the pages on the counter like evidence at a trial. She used it to blackmail them, Maris. That's why they cut you out. She didn't earn it, I whispered. She extorted it. I sat down, my knees gone soft. I wasn't disinherited because I was invisible. I was erased because I wasn't dangerous enough. I had been easier to throw away than to protect. I went upstairs, opened the cedar chest I hadn't touched in years, the one Jessa had stored her college notebooks in the summer she lived with me before all of this. Under the notebooks was a small moleskin journal. I'd forgotten I still had it. I flipped through pages until I hit it. Screenshots of old text messages, notes to herself, photos from a hotel bar in Aspen, a blurry shot of my mother sitting too close to a man who clearly wasn't my father. Jessa had kept receipts before she even had a reason to use them. They didn't just hand her everything because they loved her. They handed it over to silence her. They didn't just take everything from me, I said aloud. They gave it to her to protect themselves. By noon, I was back in my attorney's office. We rewrote my will, line by line, all rights removed. Corinne and Douglas excluded from guardianship, visitation, inheritance, every inch of legal recognition. Jessa, too. We added a clause, no Calderon bloodline, excluding my children, could ever contest it. Let this be a legacy of limits, I said, not just love. Afterwards, I sat in my car for a long time, not crying, not shaking, just breathing. For once, the silence didn't stretch like smoke. It held. That night, I recorded my own video, not to match Jessa's, not to outshine her, to extinguish her lies. I listed facts, dates, documents, audio. I named no one. But everyone who needed to understand would understand. Wes uploaded it to a private link. I sent it to the court, the school, HR, a quiet handoff. No hashtags, no clickbait captions. By morning, it had been shared privately among circles that mattered. The tone online shifted, not viral, but real. And then, my phone lit up. Voicemail. Blocked number. I played it. Jessa's voice. "You just burned everything. For what?" I smiled, not cruelly, not even smug, just done. "For something you never had," I whispered. "Integrity." Continuing the content of the previous chapter. She never called again. And I didn't expect her to. Some endings don't need fanfare. They just stop echoing. The courtroom was quieter this time, not empty, just drained. My attorney handed me the final paperwork without ceremony. The judge's decision had come in. Full denial of visitation rights. Permanent no-contact order granted. My parents were now, in the eyes of the law, strangers to my children. There was no celebration, no sigh of relief, just stillness. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I sat for a moment after the judge's ruling, my hands resting on the cool wood of the bench. Not triumphant, just finished. Later that week, Wes and I met Jenna at a small notary office on Colfax. We signed the guardianship documents together, her name listed as the legal custodian if anything ever happened to us. I watched the notary stamp the page. Permanent ink. I thought I'd feel fear. Instead, I felt clarity. "This isn't about fear," I told Jenna as we stepped outside. "It's about trust." She hugged me like a sister, not by blood, but by truth. The kind of bond you build, not inherit. The world didn't change after the truth came out, not dramatically, but slowly, quietly, Jessa disappeared. Her podcast episodes were pulled, guest appearances canceled without explanation, blog posts deleted. The carefully manicured image unraveled thread by thread. A journalist reached out asking if I wanted to set the record straight. I declined. Wes found a Reddit post titled, "Turns out the Golden Girl had skeletons in her Gucci closet." We didn't share it. We didn't comment. I just closed the app. Let them eat the truth. One morning, as the first snowfall brushed the fence, I stood in the backyard watching the twins toss snowballs. Micah slipped and laughed so hard he snorted. Lena pelted him with another snowball and screamed, "Double points!" Wes came out with coffee. I leaned into his shoulder, breathing in the cold, the calm, the realness of it all. Peace, I've learned, isn't something that just arrives. It's something you have to wrestle into place, bruise by bruise. I still wake up some nights with a racing pulse and no memory of why, but it passes quicker now. The nightmares have dulled. The ghosts visit less. I'm not healed, but I'm healing. Around noon, a small envelope appeared in the mailbox. No return address, no stamp. Inside was a photo. Me, maybe 7 or 8, smiling with a scraped knee and missing front tooth. On the back, in my own childish handwriting, were the words, "You've always been enough." I stared at it for a long time. Maybe someone out there finally saw me, but I already had. Looking back, I don't think strength means never breaking. I think it means learning how to rebuild yourself, one boundary, one truth, one no at a time. I used to believe keeping quiet was the right thing to do. Now I know silence can be a slow form of surrender. And I'm not surrendering anymore. If there's anything I want you to take from this, it's this. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for refusing to let people walk back into your life just because it suits them. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect, by presence, by earned trust. And healing? Healing begins when you stop waiting for the apology that will never come and choose yourself anyway. So let me ask you, have you ever had to draw a line between survival and family? What did that look like for you? What does enough mean in your life? If this story touched something deep in you, comment with a 1, or let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know your voice in this space. And if it didn't resonate, tell me why. Your story matters too. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories that go beyond the surface, stories that speak to the hard choices, the hidden wounds, and the quiet triumphs we carry every day. You being here matters. Thank you for listening.